Your profile in human design is like your personality. It's sort of how you see yourself and how other people see you as well. We have 6 different profile lines, and you're going to be a combination of 2 of those 6 lines. So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you about how they work together in synergy, and then on our call together, we'll go even deeper into your specific energy in the combination of those 2 that are brought together. So to understand the profiles, imagine that we're building a house. And the first line profile is sort of the foundation of that house, right? And this is called, the first line is called the investigator, or as I like to call them, the wisdom keepers. This is a foundational piece of this house because they're the ones who have the energy to go deep, deep, deep into a subject, to research it to death, and then to actually bring that information out into the rest of the world and share it in a really accessible and easily digestible type of way. This is why they're so foundational and why I like to call them the wisdom keepers of time. In history, they would have been the ones who were recording history, and they would have been keeping it in the books and making sure those books were safe so that the next generations had something to learn from. They had wisdom to gain. And this is what the first line energy is all about, or the investigator. Now, the one thing that they have to be really mindful of, right, is that when they're sharing the information, they're sharing what is going to be valuable for the person on the other end of it. They're going to be giving access to wisdom that is going to support the person and catalyze them into transformation. So this is a really, really beautiful thing for the first lines. And if you're a first line, you like to go deep into the subjects that interest you. And part of your magic is allowing it to transform others by giving them exactly what they need to hear and transform with. Then we have the second line profile, which is known as the hermit or the natural. And they are like the first room, right? So they're the bottom floor of the house and the living area with the curtains pulled wide open. The reason we call them the hermit is because they're sort of in their house and they're doing their thing and they're, going around and cooking a meal and, tinkering and reorganizing, doing what they do best. And the rest of the world, people on the outside, can see in. And we have this ability to see the hermit, to see the natural for what they are naturally very gifted at. The hermits are typically very gifted people, though they might struggle to see those gifts for themselves. Other people have no problem seeing those gifts. So if you're a second line, you might have been told in your life, like, oh, I noticed that you're so good at doing graphic design. And you're like, I'm not a graphic designer, but somehow people are seeing that you're very talented in that area. This is why it's sort of, curtains pulled wide open. So the hermit is actually very energetically correct to stay in their hermit shell until the correct opportunities present themselves. And that is when people are knocking on your window and saying, hey, hermit, I noticed that you're really, really good at doing this thing. Can you come on out and help me? And then the hermit has the opportunity to say, no, I'm actually good in here. Or actually, that sounds like a really cool opportunity and I'm open to it. So being called out of your shell is going to be so transformational for you in one way or another, right? It's either going to be the incorrect opportunity, which is going to teach you a huge lesson about what it means to come out in the right timing, or it's going to be the perfectly aligned opportunity that's going to support you in sharing your gifts and feeling energized while sharing those gifts. Then we have the third line, and we can imagine the third line profile as the spiral staircase going up the center of this house. The third line is also known as the martyr, or what I like to call the experimenter. So when you're going up a spiral staircase, you're sort of bumping into the walls and making your way up, and it's a little bit clumsy, sort of, right? And this is the energy that the third line profile brings to the world. They're bumping into life, life is bumping into them, and they're the kind of people who have always something going on in their lives, right? They're the kind of person who is going to come to you and be like, I had the craziest thing happen today. You had no idea. But they have this gift and this ability to experiment with life, to come up with an anecdote, whether positive or negative, and then share it with the external world that allows the rest of us to learn from what they've experimented with. Third lines have a very natural resilience because you're going to have a lot of life experience, a lot of things happening to you, for you, with you, near you, around you, and you get to then learn from those experiences and distill them with a sense of lightness, right? A sense of humor, and then share those with the rest of the world. Naturally, what's going to happen with the third line is people are going to come to you because they know you've been through it, and they're going to be requesting your support and your advice moving forward. And that's where you really get to shine. Then we have the fourth line, which is known as the opportunist, or what I like to call the networker or the romantic, right? And they're the second layer, foundational layer of the house, right? They're the ceiling to the bottom floor, or the, base, the floor to the second floor of the house. The reason that they are also a foundational piece of this house that we're building is because the fourth line profile has this natural ability to network. Now, if you're a fourth line and you're like, oh, I hate people, this is not what this is about. It doesn't mean that you need to go to networking events and be the person who's handing out business cards. Totally not at all. The fourth line profile has the energy and the natural ability to cultivate a network. Doesn't mean networking, so we just need to detach those words for a moment. They have this natural ability to meet people, to ask people about themselves, to learn about people, and they're the ones who are always going to be like, oh, you're looking for a carpenter? I know someone over here. Oh, you're looking for a yoga teacher? I know someone over here. Let me connect you. They naturally connect people, and they also have this really beautiful ability to cultivate community in that sense. Now, the reason I said romantics is that the fourth line profile is a natural romantic as well. They're the kind of person who really just loves to have experiences that are very sensual, right? It's experiences that are aesthetically beautiful, experiences that are very tactile, experiences that warm the heart and warm the soul. And they also like to create that for other people. So this is what the opportunist or fourth line is all about. Then we have the fifth line. The fifth line is known as the heretic, and they are the second floor, curtains pulled shut. So the reason that this is important, imagine that you're a person walking by this house. You're going to be looking up at that room with the curtains pulled shut and projecting what you think is true onto it. So like, I bet that's a kitchen up there. Oh, I bet that's a dorm room. I bet that's a fill in the blank. This is the energy of the fifth line. And I also like to call them the challenge solver. The fifth line profile has the energy to see life outside of the box. The fifth line energy has the ability to really be the knight in shining armor, not only for themselves, but for other people. And the reason that I mentioned the curtains pulled shut is because the fifth line has this natural projection field around them where other people are projecting what they think onto them. Oh, this person's really, really good at this thing. Oh, they can handle it. They can hold it. You know what? I've got too much work on my plate right now, but I'm going to hand it over to this person, the fifth line, because they can handle it. So naturally, the fifth line is also very resilient. They're the kind of person who takes on a lot. They can hold the weight of the world on their shoulders, and people naturally see them as the kind of person who can take care of shit. They can take care of business. So the really important thing for the fifth line, though, is that they are not here to be other people's knight in shining armor. In fact, they are here to gently hold the mirror, reflect back, and teach people to be their own knight in shining armor. And for the fifth line, it's important to know that because you have this projection field, and naturally you're going to be presented with a lot of opportunities and people and situations that are going to, be like, oh, but she can handle it. They can handle it. He can handle it. It's actually up to us to say, you know what? That's not for me, but let me show you an out-of-the-box solution that you can support yourself with. That's part of the gift of the fifth line, is allowing people to see in themselves that same level of capacity that they see in the fifth line. Then we have the sixth line profile, and this is known as the role model. So the sixth line profile is the roof on the house. What's really fascinating about the sixth line, the role model, is they live their life in 3 very distinct life phases. The first 30 years of their life, they're living like that third line, like that spiral staircase. They're bumping into life. Life is bumping into them. Shit's crazy and all over the place. And they're just like, what is going on, right? That's the first 30 years of their life. And that's so that they can acquire experience, they can acquire wisdom, they can acquire lessons to move then into their second phase of life, which is 30 to 50 years old. During that second phase of life, they're like finally up on the roof and they're looking down and they're like, what the fuck just happened in that first 30 years, right? They're gaining anecdotes. They're, revising all of the lessons that they've had. They're basically refining their experience and coming up with the words, coming up with the lessons, coming up with whatever it is that they need to come up with based on that whole first 30 years of their life. And then once they eventually turn 50, they come down off the roof and they're able to integrate seamlessly throughout the rest of the house. They're walking around, they're having conversations, and naturally people start to look to them as a role model figure, as someone who has a lot of answers because they've had so much life experience. They have this natural and innate wisdom about them. And that is the beauty of the sixth line. So if you're a sixth line person and you're currently in that first 30 years, that first phase, and you're like, shit's crazy, life is crazy, don't worry. There's something that is going to settle down for you a little bit later in life, but that is a part of your growth. And if you're hearing this and you're a third line and you're like, will stuff ever calm down? Please know that that is actually an energetic correctness for you. It is correct for you as a third line to be living in that energy of having lots of experience. And it's your perspective, your mindset, your shift that happens internally, which is going to guide you towards having lessons to share, having a sense of humor, and seeing that experimentation is actually it's play, right? It's a part of the experience that you came to share with the world, that you came to remind the rest of us about, that failure is not a bad thing. That's a part of success. So this is a high-level overview of the 6 different profile lines, and what you can do is start to experiment with what I've just shared with you in your own self. So when you look up your chart, you can see your profile. I'm a 5-1, so I'm a heretic and an investigator, and you can sort of see how those sort of energies play out for you in your life. And when we have our session together, I will go deeper into your profile for you so you can really understand how those energies come together and create your personality.